What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today what we got to do is I want to clean up the engine. I got it all mostly sealed up, just got some bags around and plugged off all the little vacuum lines, all that good stuff. So we're going to pressure wash this thing, get it all cleaned up, and then we can start putting this engine bay together. So here it is. If you guys missed the last video, definitely go check it out. We got this thing sprayed out with the Raptor Liner. Turned out really good. Really liking the color and the texture of it. So we got to get this thing all back together so we can drop that motor back in. So let's get this engine outside, get it pressure washed, degreased. I don't know how well it'll clean up, but with a little scrub, and I think we can make it look a lot better. So let's see what we can do. There we go, guys. Motor's cleaned up, looking a lot better, a lot cleaner. Got a lot of the heavy grease off, and there was quite a bit of oil down here around the cooler and the oil filter. So while we're talking about the cooler, I actually picked up a new O-ring set for it. I know a lot of you guys commented and said that's a common leak point, and it's a lot easier to do it out of the truck. So that's what we're gonna do. Just pull this main bolt out, and there's just two O-rings for that cooler. So let's reseal that up real quick, and then we can start putting the engine bay together. There we go. That took all of about 3 minutes to change out. So you can see the stock factory O-ring is kind of hardened up and kind of flattened out. So it's probably a matter of time, just like you guys said, before that starts leaking. So OEM seals are in. We're good to go there. So now we can start putting this bay together. The first thing I'll probably do is get all the brakes, brake lines, clutch line, all that on. And I actually picked up a new booster and master cylinder. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is a dual diaphragm booster and then the bigger 1-inch master cylinder. So that should help the truck out. My other master and booster were just really crusty and didn't look very nice and leaking a little bit too. So I was just out the junkyard out of a 4Runner, picked that up, and it's actually in really good shape. So we'll get all that on, get the lines on, get the clutch system on, and then start putting all the wiring, everything back into this bay. All right, we got the booster and master in. I went to go put the clutch together. So this is the clevis I had in the truck, and you can see it's all, that hole's all messed up and augured out. So I bought a new clevis, but it's way different. So I think I'm gonna have to do is, I'm just gonna cut this one off, cut the nut off the back of that, and weld the new clevis part to this piece. Cause they're like 70 or 80 bucks to buy, and I'll have to wait for it. So we don't want to do that. We want to get this thing together. So let's cut these apart, weld them together, and make it work. There we go, that's welded back together. Threw a little primer on it so it doesn't rust. So now let's get this line on, and I gotta figure out what to do with these brake lines, because with this extremely large body lift, yes, I am gonna drop it down. Want to get the motor and everything in before I do that, but these brake lines aren't really long enough. So I might just leave them kind of half-assed for now until I drop this body back down. Alright guys, this bay is pretty much ready for a motor. The only last thing I'm going to do is the steering shaft. I'm going to give that a quick paint job because I wasn't looking too happy. So we're going to throw some paint on that, and then in the meantime while it's drying, we can get the motor on the cherry picker, get the clutch, flywheel, crossover pipe, get the back end of the motor all buttoned up and ready to throw into the truck. Alright guys, got the motor on the ground, so what I'm going to do is change this pilot bearing now. I'm sure most of you have seen this trick where you pack the inside of it full of grease, find something that is close enough to the inside diameter, and you'll just pound it in there, and basically hydraulic force will push that bearing out. So we're going to see if it works on this one. Alright guys, that didn't work. It just popped the seal out. It must not have a seal on the inside because the grease is just coming right through the bearing. So we're going to try bread. Yeah, I said bread. I've seen people use it and somehow it works. It might actually work better than the grease on this because it's thicker and it'll probably have a harder time coming through the actual bearing. So it's worth a shot. I really just need a puller, but I do not have one. So we're going to try bread. Well guys, the bread worked. Pulled the bearing right out. So make sure you get all your lunch out of there. So what you want to use is Dave's Killer Bread and make sure it's an end piece. It seems to work the best apparently. So now we just got to drive the new bearing in, get it seated, and flywheel and clutch. So I went with a OEM 3/4 flywheel that I had surfaced, and then the Aisin, I think it's a CKT 040, I believe. So just a standard 3/4 clutch. So we're going to get the clutch and flywheel on. We'll have to throw the crossover pipe for the exhaust on, and then we're ready to throw this thing in the truck. Alright, we got the flywheel torqued. So as far as this clutch, there's a lot of confusion with these 3/4 clutches. You can see right there, it is marked transmission side, and this is the hub side. So you can see how it's farther out on the right versus the left. So according to Marlin Crawler and everywhere I've seen, this, no matter what this marking says, this hub goes into your flywheel and not into your pressure plate. So this disc is marked backwards, so just be aware of that. It will work either way, but it's designed to turn one way. So we're gonna stick this hub into the flywheel. That boys, motor is completely ready to go into the truck. I got the steering shaft in, but I don't know how this guy got it to actually line up. It doesn't even go low enough with all this body lift on here to bolt on. And this is actually a different shaft. I did notice the original shaft, which is right there, is actually bent. That's why I bought a new one. And that's probably why. So I'm not even gonna hook that up. Before I do anything really, I'm just gonna get this motor in, and we're gonna swap out this body lift for probably a 1 inch, maybe an 1.5 inches, and just drop it down so everything works. So let's get this motor dropped into the truck and call it a night. Alright guys, we got the motor bolted to the tranny, and when I was bolting it up, I realized I do not have any dowels. There were never any dowels in there, so we're gonna try to make some. So I actually found one. I believe it's a 10mm, so I found one dowel and then a couple of bolts that are really, really close in diameter. So I'm actually gonna pull this motor out from the tranny and make sure it is a 10mm, and then I'll cut these bolts up and see if they'll actually fit and be enough of a press fit in there to actually align it. So we're not giving up easy. We're gonna try to make this thing work. All right guys, got the one dowel made. So let's see, I know it is a 10mm. I already test fit this one. So let's see if this one fits. If so, we'll drop this motor back in, bolt it up permanently, get the motor mounts on, all the bell housing bolts, and we'll probably call it a night. It's getting late. Good news guys, those dowels worked out perfectly. You're not gonna be able to see it down underneath there. So let's slide this motor back in and get it all bolted back up. Well, that's a good feeling, guys. Motor is bolted in, motor mounts, and bell housing, everything's torqued down, and it is sitting on its own weight. One other thing I want to show you guys real quick. Underneath here, check out that super sweet tranny mount. There's absolutely no rubber. There's supposed to be a rubber isolator between here, and then on the other side as well. And there's nothing. It's literally, I can move the tranny around and it just kind of freewheeling. So I'm gonna have to buy a new tranny mount and we'll get that hooked up. Well guys, I'm gonna call it a night. All I wanted to do today is get the motor sitting in the truck, and we did it. So I was scared there for a second, thinking we were gonna have to wait till tomorrow to get those dowel pins for the tranny. Luckily I had one, and the other one made out of the bolt actually fit very well. So glad we got that figured out. Motor sitting in here looking great. So that's it for this one, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Throw a comment down below. Let me know what you think. We'll see you in the next one.